Oh, hello there. Yes, midweek. I've dragged myself away from Andre Walker on Julia Hartley Brewer this morning. Catch that later after a bit of teaching, so I know what my next video is going to be about. Bless him. Yes, anyway, this morning, on a day that will probably go down in history as the day that Boris Johnson resigns, I thought briefly I'd touch on one of my little bugbears about those people that claim that the teaching unions are a bunch of bully boys that force the government to do things. A couple of reports out yesterday about the conditions in classrooms that children have to work with and making some helpful recommendations from the Department for Education. Believe it or not, in England, certainly, there are no minimum or maximum temperatures that a classroom can be. I remember when I was training to be a teacher, way back then, and I used to regularly, there was one summer, I think it was the summer of 2005, could be wrong, round about there, where I was working in a classroom that was over 30 degrees Celsius for the vast majority of the day. Yeah, great. Did say to the head teacher, can we go and work outside? And her answer was no, because it looks untidy. That's head teachers for you. Actually, I used to be one, but anyway. Yes, so there are no minimum temperatures in schools, and what with the government recommending that ventilation is used with COVID, it means that various classrooms are very cold. If you open windows in this sort of temperature, you're going to rapidly arrive at a classroom temperature that's around about 5 degrees, which requires coats and gloves if you're going to sit there in it for any length of time. I fail to see how lots of the government advice, which amounts to do star jumps and cuddle a pet, metaphorically speaking, is really going to do very much about that. You can't ventilate a classroom between lessons. That's not realistically the way that it works. So, all those people that sort of say about children need to be in schools, I would say, well, how long do children need to sit in a temperature which is, let's say, below 8 degrees C? Before it becomes very detrimental to them. And the reason why, in many ways, they're having to be ventilated that way is because the government, as of 2 years ago, didn't invest in any ventilation units, which are just starting to appear now. 1 per 3 schools. If the teaching unions are so all-powerful, how come it is that those conditions are existing in schools? Now, you might say, as I say, well, the teaching unions, you know what they're like. They're just using children as pawns. Yeah, it would look like, therefore, the teaching unions are using their own staff as pawns as well. The other one I want to highlight is the report out yesterday saying about how useless the national tutoring programme has been. When that appeared, I actually applied to them. I think it was over a year ago initially, and I got an interview with them, and then I got an email afterwards telling me, nah, mate, we're not really interested. And I thought that was a bit odd because it's exactly what I do for a living. I work with kids that have been excluded from school in community settings, with doing sort of catch-up lessons and things. So it's a bit odd, really, because, as a special needs teacher, I can teach a wide variety of subjects, maths, English and science, to a sort of foundation GCSE level. So it was a bit odd that they went, nah, mate. Anyway, it transpires that the company that ran it, having submitted the lowest bid, which at the time raised eyebrows because it was so low, magically haven't been able to recruit any people. Bit odd, that, isn't it? And they're therefore doing it again. I've actually been contacted by them recently, and presumably they're going to want to try and offer me some jobs, but I don't know if I've got any time. But if somebody submits a bid which is incredibly low, don't you think that the logical thing to do would be to say, hang on a second, mate, all these other bids are for £49 million and yours is £4.50. Are you absolutely going to be convinced that that's the best bid? And the answer is yes, because when it comes to children, any expense can be spared, can't it? Presumably not being tutored in a catch-up programme is character forming. Yes. I'm just wondering how the National Union of Teachers and the NASUWT and the rest of them managed to force the government to completely bugger up the national tutoring programme. Their tentacles are everywhere. We need to be very vigilant. Yes. Anyway, as I say, enjoy the day. I'm sure the announcement at lunchtime will raise a cheer. I know it's going to make me talking about contemporary issues in sociology this afternoon have a reasonable amount to say to my pupil. Anyway, have a lovely day. I'm sure it's going to be great.